you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Good afternoon and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. And they say some days are rainy and gloomy outside, but then when you come to work and you get to see the shining, smiling face of Susan, it lights it up. Can we say hello to everyone, Miss Susan? I mean, you've been doing it all morning, but why not? Come on, say greetings from West Bay and Cameron and all around.
Good afternoon, Sterling. Good afternoon to your guest, and good afternoon, everyone. Is that okay?
That is perfect. You see, that's the tone that's going to be set for us. We started with the good friends from the Family Resource Center. 1 p.m., a chance to talk about, agriculture. And a gentleman that I've always referenced, not only because of his academic intellect, his absolute fantastic work ethic, but just the honorable individual that he is. Well, Mr. Joel Walton joins us at 1 p.m. And he brings along, or maybe it's her that's bringing him along, Mr. Lydia Jackman. Then 2 o'clock, well, what better way to round it out with our friends from the Lions Club of Tropical Gardens. See, and it's only Monday. Can you imagine how much better the week is going to be? Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email Talk Today at candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow,
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for joining us. And even though I'm looking forward to our other discussions, I believe we set the stage right by starting off with excellent people and an excellent discussion. And I've always been a champion of the Family Resource Center. Mr. Mayor, thank you very much to you and your team for coming on board, and especially today as we look at it. Maybe there is a first-time listener. Given all of the movements in and out of the country, just maybe there's one person. I found one the other day, maybe I'll find another one today. Could we ask of you, politely and without great imposition, a brief introduction, not just your name, rank, and your favorite foods, but just a little bit about you, your background, education, training. Would that be fine?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Right.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I love coming on here. It's been a little while now, so it's nice to be back in the studio. My name is Meher Lamba. I am a program facilitator with the Family Resource Center. You're asking about me now. You're not even asking about the Family Resource
Not
Center.
yet. And the reason, I am not easily encouraged to talk about me, right?
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes as I think back to what Mr. Jeff Schofield used to say way back when, the people we have in the studio, we just didn't find them. Not only on the show that we used to do, but specifically the resources that we have within our community. And as the FRC is sort of another extension of the wonderful talent within the public sector, it's good for people to appreciate that we have the experience, we have the expertise, we have the competence, we also have the compassion. And I think, as everybody would agree, you, Ms. Charmaine, and the rest of the team, even the guys over there, they're all, wonderfully equipped and gifted and willing to share so passionately with the cause. So, only if you wish.
Absolutely. I think that's a wonderful way to start, because it's, especially when coming to somewhere like the Family Resource Center, it's important to know who you're going to meet on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me personally, my passion is working with people who've experienced domestic violence, people who've experienced family violence, people who have just had a hard time in their family lives, in their home lives, and really working with children to help the next generation not have to deal with as many of the social issues. We can't eradicate them completely, but as many of the social issues as possible, and really set whoever up for success as we can. So we've done a lot of training. We've spent a lot of time looking at how, for example, adverse childhood experiences affect children. And so that can be having domestic violence in the household, having a parent be incarcerated, different things like that come into play, and the child has no control over them. And coming into that already can affect a child mentally and physically as well, actually, in terms of how they grow later in life. And so if we can meet that child early on, we can set up so many of those protective factors. And that's where a lot of my passions lie, is coming in with those protective factors, coming in from a community awareness perspective, and how can we support our children from a very young age so that we help set them up for success regardless of what is out of their control coming in.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's the important part, the fact that we look at our societies and we talk about, the things that transpire now affecting the future, but is also affecting us now. We sometimes used to say, I don't know whether we still do or not, that the health and strength of the family determines the success, the sobriety, the safety, the security of the society. Mm-hmm. And yet the family, whatever that and however that's defined, is under attack. A lot of stress, not just now with all that's transpiring, but just in general. If I could then, I was thinking as this initiative, Rethink Parenting, the approach to it, I think is important for us to appreciate that it's not just about making time at the dinner table, whether that's a quick sandwich and a glass of water, or whether that's an involved meal that everybody puts their hands in, from the very youngest to helping to peel the carrots or wash the potatoes, to maybe you stand here and if the pot boils over, just call mommy so that I can get daddy to fix it. Just kidding. I know some households where the wife is like, oh, I'm so glad he can cook because man. But it's an involved process. It may be. In this process, I want to ask a couple of things about the families and just some little things I've been trying to read on the periphery to get potentially a hypothesis that I'm developing, but that may be for something later on. We are in this month. We are faced with so much things that are transpiring. We're very grateful that we have the opportunities to look at bullying from what transpires in the schools and the communities, potential what's happening in the workplaces, but even sometimes inadvertently, unintentionally, what may be happening across families as well. So with that, so much to consider. Where are we with all this?
So bullying, if you define bullying, it's when someone, I'll read the definition we have here. It says, bullying is when someone is hurt either by words or actions on purpose, usually more than once, so it's a repetitive action, feels bad because of it, and has a hard time stopping what's happening to them. So the person being bullied feels bad and they can't stop it. Part of what we talk about with bullying is similar to domestic violence in a sense, is that it is from one person trying to get power and control over another person. So if we're talking about in the household, if the parents are bullying each other, so to say, a child might learn that behavior and do the same thing in a school setting. There are many reasons why children could engage in bullying behavior, but that's kind of the gist of it, is getting power and control over another person. And so we do talk about how a lot of the things that happen in a household, if a child is not feeling like they have the power in the household, or they have any power or choices in the household, they might try and gain those choices elsewhere, because everyone, even little kids, they want some semblance of power. Kids have no control over what happens in their lives. They have no control over what they do with their days, what they eat, anything like that. So they're trying to get power and control as well, kind of wherever they can. Mm-hmm. And so that might be where some of that bullying behavior might come from as well in the house.
So it could be physical or verbal?
It could be physical or verbal. It could also be social, where maybe you're excluding somebody from a friend group or something like that. And now it could be cyberbullying. All
right. And could it be, we see it amongst, particularly in the classroom or the school setting, but in the household, one sibling to the other?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So a lot of people think of sibling rivalry as just sibling rivalry and it's fine. And it can be, there's an extent to everything, but sometimes it extends beyond that when it's repetitive and it's really affecting the sibling that's being bullied, and maybe the sibling that's being bullied just doesn't know how to stop it. When there's not an end to it, then it can be really hard for a child, even if it's with their sibling.
We used to hear, I don't know, maybe we still hear, teasing. Oh, he's just teasing her, she's just teasing and bullying. One and the same? Are they similar?
So there is a difference between being mean or being rude and being bullied. And part of that comes into, is it intentional? Are they trying to do this to you? Or is it just, they're not actually trying to hurt your feelings or anything like that. They're just making a joke. We can tease each other casually, but what is the intention behind that teasing? And the other piece to it is how often does it happen? Is it recurring? Is it repetitive? If it is recurring, repetitive, and intentional, that's when it becomes bullying.
Okay, so just, and I don't think that, we should dismiss it or, play it down, but, sometimes, let's say adults even sometimes, or you just don't know when to stop. One would say to the other, you just always take it too far, and in that circumstance, everybody's laughing except the person who's the brunt of the joke, so to speak.
Right.
Not bullying, or is that bullying? It happens in that setting. It may not happen frequently. It may have happened in the past. It may be that one individual. Potentially.
It could be. It depends, again, on the intention of the person delivering it. And then it also depends on if the person who's being bullied, can they tell that person to stop?
And will the person stop?
And will the person stop? If that person will not stop after being told to stop, then you might be crossing a line and have to reconsider what that looks like.
Okay, fair enough. Well, let's stop for a quick second. Take a short break. When we come back, we'll continue the discussion. I always, learn from you guys. I always get a chance to appreciate, that life can be better if you're willing to take, proper action and just embrace the positive. So we're going to have this excellent conversation. If you wish to call, Miss Susan's right there. You see how things are just back to normal now and perfect. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Please join us after the break.
Maintaining a strong mind and body through sports and general healthy living is a good course of action. But what about your spiritual man, your inner man? He has to be awakened, fed, exercised, strengthened, and led according to the will of God. So, have you heard the call? I'm Evangelist Brother Joseph Joey Ebanks, and I'm inviting you to worship Wednesday and Thursday nights at 7:30. We are bringing the Word of God to our communities as Jesus commanded. Faith comes by hearing. So come and hear. Bring your own chair or simply park and listen to the Word of God from your vehicle, covering the Cayman Islands with the Word of God, one community at a time.
Have You Heard the Call will be in East End Little Hurley's site October 26th through October 29th, featuring Bishop Delbert Clark and Pastors George Williams and Daniel Williams.
An alarming number of teens are drinking alcohol, which makes it urgent to find every opportunity to talk to your kids about the dangers of underage drinking. They really do hear you. For tips on what to say, visit ndc.ky. This is a public service message from the National Drug Council and Radio Cayman.
Do you remember when 2020 was great?
I don't think it was...
2020 vision, not the year.
Right.
Make 2020 great again with Optical Outlook, the new West Bay store now open. With their designer frames and sunglasses, eye health has never looked so good. Call 746-2020 and book your eye exam today at Caymanian Village and now at Jake Scott Plaza in West Bay, offering premier eye care in Cayman for over 30 years. Come see the difference with Optical Outlook.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us. And as we invite you to be a part of a discussion, the phone lines are open. One of the calls you pay for, the other Susan pays for it. I mean, she's got a raise, man. I'm just kidding. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255 is a flow toll-free line if you want to give us a shout. The program facilitator at the Fallon Resource Center, one of the, I think 50,000. I'm just kidding. There's so many of them. They work so hard. You may think it's 5 million of them. That's Maher Lamba. How important is it, do you think, that in our society we have not just a continued discussion on these topics so that people appreciate that it's not, and it should never become a cliche. We should not just hear it and dismiss it, but that it's actually real and it can affect people now, but also maybe for many decades into the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that I wanted to mention is, this is our last week of our campaign, so to say. This is the last week of Stood Up Month, but that doesn't mean that bullying is going to stop happening by the end of the week or that we should stop having the conversation. And one of the things that we've done this year is we've created short lesson plans. Mm-hmm. So we've created 3. There's one for schools that focuses on what bullying is and what can you do about it, how can we stop it or prevent it in your school setting. There's one for after-school programs that focuses on communication. So what is bullying? How can you be assertive? So not aggressive, not passive in your communication, but be assertive when you're trying to ask somebody to stop bullying you. And the third one we've created is actually for families, for parents to have a little bit of support in how to begin that conversation with your children, to say, this is what bullying is. Is it something that's happening to you? Is it something that you feel like you might be engaging in? And the other piece around the family one is we've talked about building a value of kindness within your family. So there's different activities that we've set up within that lesson plan so that you make kindness a family value. And then anything that happens that is not kind, well, your children know the expectation. They know that kindness is the expectation in your household. And they also know that if someone is being unkind to them, that they are supported by their household. And so we really want families, schools to start that conversation this year and include kids. Have that conversation with them. Learn, do some research on your side, find out what the signs are for bullying. We've put a lot in there in our social media this time on the stats in Cayman, what bullying is, the types of bullying, who's involved in bullying, and even laid out kind of what can you do if you are being bullied. And so there's all of the information there, but we want you to start having that conversation because we know that our kids need support. We know that they need someone that they can go to if they are being bullied, and they need that adult to have an answer for them. They need that adult to be able to support them.
So we talk about as parents modeling behavior and the like. And I wonder at times if as parents, spouses communicating with each other sometimes don't appreciate that the tone they're setting. And maybe I'll ask about that in a second. But first, let's join this caller online. All right, let's go to the phones. Good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Vera. I have a deaf daughter, right? And when she used to go to school, there was 2 kids that used to bully her. But you know how I handled it? I did not went and got angry with them or tell them off or anything. I just went and explained to them in a kind and a nice way. And then I told the mom for the girl, you know, to speak to her about that, you know, her deafness and everything, and not to be angry with her, you know. And, you know, it helps. So I think sometimes kids, sometimes they don't understand. So they think that bullying is like a joke or something like that. But then if you speak to them in a right way and explain to them, many times I believe they would listen and they would stop the bullying. I hope that would help.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think one of the things that we don't talk about enough, and in a lot of our campaigns this year and a lot of our radio shows that we've done this month, we've included the Special Needs Foundation as well, just as a way of also saying that one of the reasons that kids bully is when they find someone that's different from them. And so it's really important to talk to kids about diversity, differences. We're all different in some way or another, and we want to see those as strengths. We want to see those as supporting one another. We all have challenges. We all have strengths. So we want to focus on that and focus on the diversity and the positive pieces around that rather than picking on people for their differences, you know, and that can be something that sometimes it's modeled behavior that kids are picking up from their families, or they're just trying to fit in the schools. And so they're saying, well, I'm the same as you, but that person's different, and maybe that's why they're doing it. And so we really want to focus on teaching our children about the benefits of diversity, because we do live in a very diverse country and we want to have some pride in that as well.
I appreciate our mother, you know, taking the courage, but also reminding us that if we recognize what is before us and we be very proactive in our response, now I commend her for having not just the resolve, but the restraint as well. Because sometimes you will, you know, get angry and say and do things that you know probably not what you should do. But this is your child. And
I commend her for using it as a learning opportunity for your child and for the other children involved and other families involved, because that's wonderful. We want to be able to teach that.
As you were sharing, Mom, what would you say to other parents? Because I think sometimes it may be that the child has now a new pair of glasses, or the child may be struggling in a subject or really, really, really smart in a subject area, and that difference isn't shared by the other students. To parents who perhaps are experiencing something similar, what would you say to them in terms of how to talk to their children or to their friends with similar issues, or even to the teachers?
Can I say a little something?
Yes, of course.
There was another child that he had Down syndrome, and the mom told me they used to bully him. So I advised her, same thing to do, not to get angry with the child that is bullying. Just go and speak to them and explain to them, and teach them, because sometimes they don't know, they don't understand, the kids. So we, as adults, we have to speak to them in nice and kind way, and you'll get more out of it than if you go and be angry and tell them off and, want to fight or something. Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. Good advice, and it just shows you how parents can help other parents, how you as a parent can learn from another parent, and you're not the only one experiencing something. So thank you very much, Mom, for sharing that.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Have a wonderful week. All right.
You too. I know you. Good boy.
Thank you for that. You see, I better behave, But maybe that's one of the other wonderful things about this community is that, despite the push for 100 or 1 million, whatever the population will be, we can still be each other's, keeper. We can also help each other in the challenges of life and raising our children and growing a healthy society. Nothing new under the sun, they tell us, Sometimes we feel we're the only ones carrying the weight, though. Well, Ms. Mayor, from that perspective, though, we look at parents sometimes, and the child comes home, and we can tell something is off. Well, what would you say to the parent? I mean, because sometimes you ask the child, well, what happened? Oh, nothing. And how do you get the child to share with you? What do you do? Yeah.
So I think you're touching on some really important pieces. Some parents ask us, well, how do I know if my child is being bullied? How do I know? And there's different ways that you can know, but one thing to really think about is you know your child best. So if you know that your child is behaving differently from what their normal is, which will be different for every child, then get curious. Right? So if your child is someone who usually gets really good grades, but their grades are dropping, think about that. If your child is starting to get lots of headaches, stomach aches, things like that, maybe they loved school before but now are not wanting to go to school or not engaging with their peers as they normally do or their friends. So we always talk about get curious around the behavior. So if you're getting curious, you can talk about what's going on at school. Ask questions that are not yes or no questions, but maybe more open-ended questions, right? So we're talking about, how was your day? Did you do anything exciting today? Did anything happen in your, what kind of things happened in your day today? Do you want to share? And the more you open up that space where it is a safe space to share, the more your child will feel comfortable doing that with you, and it'll be more part of the norm. The other pieces around that is listen to your child. If you're asking your child questions like that, don't do it while you're cooking or doing something else, while you're on your phone, while you're working. You want to model that behavior as well. So listening is something that we all have a lot of trouble with, and it's something that we do have to practice.
Sorry. No, I shouldn't.
As you're writing and on your phone.
Be an active listener.
Exactly.
Pay attention. You were talking, I wrote down something. So speak to your child in a way, hey, I really want to know what's going on. But sometimes as parents, we get frustrated. Come on, I know something's wrong, tell me. But do we do that? Grab them, you got to tell me what's going on. What do we do?
Yeah, so listen to them, empathize with them. So that's the next part. So if your child does tell you something, or they're having a hard time and they're not ready to share yet, there's also something about understanding where they're coming from. You want to not try and immediately solve that problem, right? So even if your child tells you they're being bullied at school, I'm going to go down there and, it might not be your problem to solve even, right? It could be something that your child might be able to, you want to talk to them. Maybe they have great ideas on how they can stop it. Maybe they need your support with some of those ideas, but maybe they're already talking to a teacher at school who's handling it.
Should then, because I want to come back to this notion of, because you said one of the things is, cyberbullying and the like.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, but let's say that the teacher now is aware of something transpiring. It may just be in the classroom, the way the child sits and so on. It may be on the playground or changing classes, whatever happens, right? Should the teacher, and this is probably subjective, but should the teacher reach out to the parent and say, listen, I'm aware, and update the parent? Or
I think that's up to the schools, and I'm not going to.
Schools
but I do think it has to do also with the extent of what's happening.
Okay.
If it's teasing in the classroom and things like that. But if it's something that's affecting the child, that might continue affecting the child, then it depends also on the relationship that the child has. But you want to be that open parent, hopefully, so that your child feels comfortable talking to you themselves.
Right.
And you might have to give them some time to do that. But if you can show your child that you are listening to them and that you are willing to empathize with them, and that might, whether it be bullying or something else, we always say that we want you to first listen to them, understand their feelings, then validate their feelings. Whatever they're going through, it might feel like nothing to you, but it might feel like the whole world to them. So you want to validate that. I understand that you're feeling that way, and I understand that can be really hard for you. And then after that, you problem solve with them. And when you're problem solving, you always let them go first. And then you can share what you might have to say. And as you're problem solving with them, it might come to, you listening to me was all I needed. I don't need to do anything else about this.
And that's the thing in listening. I mean, we are, probably as parents, sometimes consumed with our own lives, making sure that we got our work done to serve our clients, whether we're plumbers or, other professional attorneys, accountants, or, and the like, that we forget that our children have demands and sometimes challenges. But once the bills are paid, food's on the table and roof over the head, we believe that's the measure of the good parent. When we come back, can we talk a little bit about the online aspect of it? And one of the things that I was going to ask was that, here's a child in this new world that may be unfamiliar to some of the older sort of generational parents that, we don't know how to video game, right? But a child is there all the time and these things are happening. We don't see it. And of course, you can share as much, because as talking to you, we always learn. All right, quick little break. And then when we come back, we'll conclude our discussion in this segment. Always information to be shared. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
King Sports Center takes pride in being more than just an ordinary gymnasium. For 14 years, their multi-purpose facility has been providing the community with a variety of sporting, recreational, and relaxation activities. King Sports Center has a bowling alley, lounge bar, multi-purpose rooms, powerhouse gym, rock climbing wall, bungee jumping, a 10,000 square foot rink, and so much more. For more information on the variety of services, call their friendly staff today at 946-5464 or email kings@candw.ky or visit www.kingsportscenter.com. King Sports Center, your one-stop shop for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
For information that matters to you, the people. Hear from the government, the opposition, independents, and other experts on issues and solutions that affect you. For the record. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, tune into 89.9 and 93.9 FM from 7:30 to 9 a.m. for Cayman's News Straight Talk Morning Show. For the record.
I invite you to join me for the record. You are invited to be a part of this interesting and informative show. Embrace the opportunity to dialogue with your legislators, policymakers, and those charged with policy implementation.
For the record. Brought to you by
Coca-Cola. Available across the Cayman Islands from Tortuga Distributors.
Accept no substitutes. Taste the feeling with Coca-Cola.
What a great spot for lunch. I haven't been here in ages.
I saw it on Experience Cayman.
What's that?
It's a free online festival showcasing all the great things to do in Cayman.
Oh, that's so cool. I'll check it out for sure. Now, what are we having for lunch?
Experience Cayman is a celebration of everything local. To rediscover all the best things to see and do in the Cayman Islands, visit gov.ky/Experience Cayman and follow Experience Cayman on Facebook and Instagram. Brought to you by the Ministry of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure.
Do you remember when 2020 was great?
I don't think it was
2020 vision, not the year.
right.
Make 2020 great again with Optical Outlook. The new West Bay store now open. With their designer frames and sunglasses, eye health has never looked so good. Call 746-2020 and book your eye exam today at Caymanian Village and now at Jake Scott Plaza in West Bay. Offering premier eye care in Cayman for over 30 years. Come see the difference with Optical Outlook.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for listening. Thanks for sharing. And as we invite you to continue to be a part of the discussion, Ms. Bahira Lamba from the Family Resource Center joins us. And I think sometimes we need to be reminded. So repetition is good. And the more that we sort of engage in these conversations, the more sometimes we realize that, maybe I'm doing that and wasn't cognizant of it. Or, I didn't mean anything by it. But then look at the potentially negative consequence now, but down the road. And not only for this person, but for others. Because there could be a negative knock-on effect. If I could then ask you, prior to the break I was just referencing, the child is in a, what do you call a party? They're playing games. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to learn these words, and you guys having a party? I don't see the popcorn, and there's no music, nobody's dancing, playing. Oh, so they're in their world that may be familiar to some of us, unfamiliar. And the child all of a sudden isn't playing anymore, or is that a sign and potential concern? Or is it, hey, finally, not playing anymore, that's good. How do we know which is it?
I think it definitely depends. Again, I mean, all of this is so dependent on your child, and that's why we always say you know your child best, and we want you to be aware of that. Be aware of your child's behaviors, the norms, and then things that might not be part of the norm in that moment. With video games and being online, it is so important for parents to understand what your child is doing online, because there are a lot of safety risks with going online that are very different from the safety risks that we have just seeing people kind of day to day. And so we at the Family Resource Center, we do programs on digital parenting, and we can also work with you one-on-one, but there's lots of great information out there. So one of the things that you can do, for example, is if your child is on a tablet or a phone, there are different apps that you can use to set up limitations on the apps that they can use, what websites they can go on, how long can they be on there for as well. And you as a parent can just set that up, and then it'll give you reports, or you can go in there and check. And that's a good way to understand what your child uses technology for. One of the other things when it comes to digital parenting that we always recommend is ask your child to teach you. If you are a parent who's not very involved in technology, or if it's a specific video game and you just don't know, you can learn a lot from your child. And it can be a good bonding experience for both of you, but it can also be a great way for you to understand why are they using that piece of technology, what are they using it for, and for you to understand a little bit more about how to use it.
Right. If I then could ask of you, you talk about apps. I would imagine as a younger child, the parent has just bought this device, whatever that is, and even if the parent isn't sure how to set it up, someone is intuitive, or you can ask someone, you can do that. But an older child, whether that's a young teen or whether it's just preteen, sometimes they know more about it than you. But what about if you've already given the child this thing and you haven't set up anything? Can you then revisit and say, okay, listen, you know what, I was not mindful, I didn't know, but now we're going to put in after the fact. It's almost like the government passing retroactive legislation in a sense. How do we address that? Is it too late?
It's not too late. It's absolutely not. So technology is something that is a privilege. It's not a right. It's not food. It's not sleep. It's not your shelter, right? So it is something that you have given to your child as a privilege, but it's still yours. The amount of time they can use it, what they use it for, that is something that you do have control over. But you want to have control over it in a smart way that still can support your relationship with that child. And so what we talk about from a younger age, ideally you're giving your child choices within your control from a very young age, so that you can say, do you want to do your homework on the dining room table or on the coffee table, right? So you're giving your child small choices from a young age, and then you can give them more and more choices as they get older, rather than trying to control everything. Hopefully you've built in a lot of those family values from a very young age, so that your child is responsible enough to make those decisions, because that's what we want to do. We want to build our children up to, there's going to be a time in our lives where we can't control them. We can't say, you can only use this or this or this, or you won't be there for a big important decision in their life, and you want them to be equipped to make strong positive decisions. So you want to instill those family values. And even if your child is a teenager now and you're starting to think about it now, that's okay. You can have a conversation with your child about what are our family values, right? And a lot of it as they're teenagers is getting curious about, what are you using it for? What do you use technology for? Do you use it for educational purposes? Do you use it to keep in touch with your peers? Because that can also be something that's a positive thing for them, right? Social media can be used positively if they're using it to maintain interactions with their peers, especially this year with the pandemic.
Yeah. Because you can be on that device or multiple devices all day long, but for different things. You're doing it for school for that set period of time, then you're reaching out to family and friends, and you're talking, and you're gaming, and you so on. And unlike, say, the parent or even the grandparent who, well, why are you always eyes fixed on this thing, and there's a potential argument, the device is there to do all these things. But what about then the parent who, for work and for socialization, is doing the same thing? Yeah, but I'm the adult, I'm the parent.
And that's where we talk about, we really encourage our families to have family meetings and set up some rules if there's things that you're having trouble with. And so if, for example, screen time is something that you have trouble with in your family, and you set up 3 hours a day is what we're on screen time for, and then, all of those family rules are for the children and for the parents. You have to model that behavior. If your child is learning to be on the phone all of the time, think about your own behavior as well. Are you on your phone for the same reasons? Right. And that's where that conversation can become really important. I'm using it because I have to be on call for work. I'm using it because I have to talk to your brother and sister who don't live in Cayman, or my parents who don't live in Cayman, or, that's what I'm communicating with. Right. And so that could be part of that as well.
With his permission, I reached out to him. He's, I don't even want to call it a single dad, but whichever, that's how you put it. He had listened to one of our shows way back when, and we had a conversation after, and I thought, okay, just go on the website. I don't know if it's a man thing or whatever it is, but he thought accessing the information there it was helpful. We may have even done a webinar during this whole house arrest thing they were on. But he found it very helpful. So I reached out to him just before the show and asked him, how it's been going. So as a teenager, I won't say if it's a boy or a girl. It's a boy. It's good. He has a teenager in the household, and he went back after the fact to revisit. So, okay, we're going to put in place a certain amount of time. Had the conversation. He's said, I can share as much as I want. It was a bit reluctant, but then he gave the child, listen, you're on the thing from the time you wake up till, forever. What you're doing is, unfortunately, I don't know. But he said, they found that there's an app to monitor how much time this thing is on. And unfortunately, it'll be on all the time, even when you're not on it. So it looks like you're on it constantly because you never come off. And there was a bit of a reluctance at first. But now that the child has taken ownership, now there's been things have transpired this year. There have been a lot of growth both as parent and as child. But they found that two things. They're gaming together. I haven't been able to get there yet. I find it, they're like too many buttons. There's one little tiny bit controller and like 5,000 buttons on this thing. What do you use it for? But they've also done more things together and just having that conversation. So these things actually work.
Absolutely. And that's what we want to build, right? When we talk about parenting, whenever we start talking, we don't talk about consequencing until much later. We talk about, are you building that relationship with your child? Does your child know that they are loved unconditionally? Does your child have other unmet needs, maybe, if there's a behavior in there or something like that. If your child, for example, is bullying somebody, what's going on at home? Is there something that we can address? Is there an unmet need for that child where they're not getting something in the household, or is there something else going on? If your child is being bullied in the school, does your child feel comfortable talking to you? Is that relationship, again, it all goes back to that, is your relationship with your child strong enough for them to feel comfortable with you?
Okay. Well, I think this is where we appreciate that being a parent isn't, simple and easy, but it isn't impossible. There are others that you can reach out to. The Family Resource Center has remarkable, resources to hand. Your programming is not only free, but it's very accessible. Now, for that parent that's listening, what would you say to them? What's the best way to reach out to you? When I say you, the Family Resource Center is what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. So we want you to reach out to us if you're having any concerns from a parenting perspective, whether it be on digital parenting, screen time, or anything like that, whether it be with bullying. There's lots of resources on our website, and there's webinars and things like that, especially on our Facebook page as well, that you can always access. But for that one-on-one support or for that group support, we would love for you to reach out to us. Our phone number is 949-0006, so that's 949-0006, and our email address is frc@gov.ky, so that's frc@gov.ky.
You may have heard about 007, but this is 0006. 949-0006. I hope, as time unfolds, that we always have these continued discussions. We're very grateful that you and your team will come on from time to time and remind us that, the importance of being a parent, the dividends are continual, and one day you get to enjoy not just a wonderful relationship with your child, but, with their offspring as well. So a lasting legacy, for a healthy society. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Miss Maher and her team, I think if she was here, I'd say Miss Miller. Charmaine, they do a fantastic job. Please, may the week be very productive and enjoyable. And as you go about, perhaps you find time for lunch. Who knows? A little bit of, smooth, dark, decadent chocolate that just brings the day all good. Right, Miss Susan? All right, we're going to pause and take a break, but when we come back after the headline news, please rejoin us. I wanted to have Miss Lydia Jackman together with Mr. Joel Walton as our guest. It's going to be a fantastic discussion. And by the end of the day, I'll be ready to take my test. Who knows? I might pass and get an E. Stay tuned. We'll talk today.
From district to district, moving through the waters to Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Your station, your voice. All things Cayman. One radio, many people. This is home.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Honey, our fridge has stopped working again. Everything in the freezer is melting. We need to get this repaired right away. I'm calling Brand Source Service.
When you need the very best appliance service, call Brand Source Service at 623-5000. Offering service and installation of all brands and models of appliances. Brand Source Service is Cayman's source for appliance parts and repairs, with qualified and experienced technicians and the island's largest stock of appliance parts. Brand Source Service will have your repair completed in a flash. So, whatever the problem is, call the experts at 623-5000. Brand Source Service, Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park. Telephone 623-5000. This is how we wake you up in the morning. Praise time on Radio Cayman.
Are you ready? Here we go. Set. I feel like running, skip it, run it. Feel like skip it.
Praise time.
Give me Jesus in the morning. I will. So send me, Lord. I will go.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only two species that we have on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice.
It is in the
best interests of the people of these islands.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
Debate opens on amendments to the Developmental and Planning Law, which will quote of issues, including making it easier for homeowners to switch to propane and for developers to spread the word about their projects. The minister responsible said the purpose of these amendments are to enhance the efficiency of the authority and to support the development of the islands, particularly with regard to redevelopment of the Georgetown Centre. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines. In news elsewhere, doctors in Belgium have been asked to keep working even if they have coronavirus amid a surge in cases and hospital admissions. About a quarter of medical staff there are reportedly off sick with COVID-19. Now 10 hospitals have requested that staff who have tested positive but not have any symptoms to keep working. And Chinese financial technology giant Ant Group looks set to make the world's largest stock market debut. Ant, backed by Jack Ma, billionaire founder of e-commerce platform Alibaba, is to sell shares worth about $34.4 billion on the Shanghai and Hong Kong stock markets. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
your voice, your choice, your radio.
Come and enjoy spooktacular fun for the whole family at Cayman Turtle Center's Halloween Family Fun Fest.
Saturday the 31st of October. Explore the wildlife, ride the water slide, splash in the lagoon, and enjoy fun games and activities for the kids.
The Halloween fun will take place from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. with carnival-style food and drink specials for the whole family.
Costumes are encouraged, and kids 12 and under in costume will get free admission.
It's Cayman Turtle Center's Halloween Family Fun Fest.
Saturday, October 31st. Don't miss it.
Stronger, wider, higher, lighter. The all-new Ford Ranger Raptor. Powerfully built with a 2.0 diesel Panther engine and 210 horsepower. Modern with leather interior and 8-inch touchscreen, Sync 3 technology and power features. Tough, built to handle the off-road with 4-wheel drive, terrain modes, and 10-speed automatic transmission. Coming early October to Vamped Motors, Walkers Road. To find out more and to test drive the bold new Ford Ranger Raptor, visit Vamped Motors, Walkers Road, or call 949-8288.
Do you know how much the economy grew in 2019? Or how much companies in the Cayman Islands earned from financial services provided to the rest of the world? And how much did foreign companies invest in the country last year? The annual business surveys being conducted by the Economics and Statistics Office from now until July 17th seek to collect information needed to answer these questions. The surveys include all entities that produce goods and services in the Cayman Islands. The surveys are confidential under the Statistics Law and are exempt from the Freedom of Information Law. Your response matters. Do your part. Fill out and return your survey forms to the ESO. Remember, better data, better decisions, better business. For assistance in filling out the forms or for more information, visit www.eso.ky or call 525-8565 or 325-6652.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. And it's a wonderful opportunity to start the week off with a definitive focus on things that are truly important to the health and welfare of our society. And I think it creates a greater sense of not just social awareness, but I think sanity and sometimes some would say sanctity within our society. Ms. Lida Jackman, good afternoon. A pleasure to welcome you to our studio. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, Sterling, and good afternoon, listeners.
The last time we had this conversation, it seemed like it was so long ago, and it seemed to have been so distant.
July, actually.
You actually remember it?
Of course.
Well, that's a good thing or a bad thing, What was I wearing? I'm just kidding. We were
a blue shirt.
Probably wearing a blue shirt. I've got two colors in my closet. blue, and then some more blue. No, above the rest of the fire, I got a couple of greys now to reflect the gloom. No, just kidding. No, but thank you for bringing some greenery to our studio. The notion, though, in all seriousness, that we don't always appreciate the resource that we have in our community, and sometimes how accessible it is, but how it's being leveraged and how we can access things that are closer to hand than we appreciate. And I think when we talk about, my brother Dwight in particular always used to talk in a tone that, even though I don't think I ever heard him talk about food security, that was the premise and the emphasis of all that he was saying. The notion that, that little bit of land isn't large, but you can grow and you should grow. And before there was sort of a mantra to eat what you grow and grow what you eat. Well, he was the living testament of that. Well, one of the few times when I think in our studio when we don't have the presence of the better, fairer sex, that we say you should go to YouTube. Well, it would fall due to the likes of Mr. Austin Harris and the others. This is the only other time where we say, listen, go to YouTube. You want to see a gentleman who is skilled.
Indeed.
Indeed. Well, good afternoon, Mr. Joel Walton.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, you just talk right in. Pretend you were singing. We up to the Blackies, on a Friday night. You'll be performing, man.
That wouldn't be a good occasion. I never could sing, actually.
Get an A for the effort, though.
Yeah.
See, yeah. I got an E for effort. But
okay.
But it's always about making it joyful and bringing a presence that uplifts. I think you've always had that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. It's nice to be here. Good evening, good afternoon, sorry, to everybody.
Yeah, you can say it in the language you want. All right, so Miss Lydia was going to set the stage for us, Mr. Walton, as we're talking about the idea. Miss Lydia, the importance of looking at it and embracing it and realizing that it doesn't matter who you are and where you are and when you start, as long as you do it and you do it with a willing heart.
Exactly, and I think your brother had the right idea in terms of food security and being able to grow something. You don't have to have a massive piece of land to grow something to eat, and that is the thing of our forefathers. Many of them had kitchen gardens that they would grow herbs and different types of crops and foods. You didn't have access to the supermarkets or what we have access to nowadays. But more importantly, I would like to draw on the point that one of the greatest resources that we have is our people, is the people who live here. And I am always amazed and humbled and blown away when I go and I speak to the farmers, because the knowledge that they have and the understanding that they have of the land is just absolutely breathtaking. What is a little bit of a shame is that sometimes we find that the farmers are an aging population. And so sometimes, I feel very much that call to have a record, archive their knowledge and the things that they know, so that because what we find is things are cyclical, they come back around. And it is absolutely fantastic when you have a record of what they were doing, the techniques that they used, because those things come back around.
Something you shared then, and Joel, if I may invite you to that discussion, I think, unfortunately, and it may be the world over, but I know from my perception within the Cayman context that we see farmers and farming and that as being this type of work, these type of people. I have, perhaps maybe to your detriment sometimes, credited you many times and referenced you publicly, because here is someone that I have a perception of who is incredibly intelligent, an amazing work ethic, but is not just an avid farmer and gardener and but has an interest and enthusiasm that sharing what we grow in the garden, bring it to the plate, but encouraging others, nurturing them so that they can say, listen, this isn't just have to be a hobby. This isn't just something you do because you can't do anything else. This is work, but it's important work. But this is work that is as much of an intellectual interest as it is a physical effort. And you embody that effortless one.
Thank you. The thing about, just to pick up on the aging challenge, I think that you'll find that pretty much certainly throughout the Caribbean, we're seeing it occurring. I think though, and I like to draw on my experience with chefs, because my first garden I was 4 years old. Okay, coming back, I was a vegetarian. The ship came once every 3 months. So pretty much at 4 years old, I tried to grow things that most of it didn't work, but I tried it. So then I ended up on bread and peanut butter for most of my first 16, 17 years. Anyway, I think that the whole experience with chefs, if you look at maybe 15, 20 years ago, most of us called chefs cooks.
Indeed.
And then, of course, the whole chef industry became, well, what it really is, entertainment in a lot of respects, but entertainment with passion. The same thing, I think, it's the whole farming, gardening thing, I think is lagging behind a bit, but it's going that way, in that because of the linkages with chefs and gardeners / farmers, and I use gardeners because people like myself I consider to be a gardener, because I don't have farmland. I just have the piece of land around my house. So I'm severely limited in what I can achieve. But it also builds on what Lydia was speaking about earlier. You don't need a lot of land to do a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I think that the whole partnership with the chefs actually leading the farmers and the gardeners along is helping to bring that whole tradition back into the forefront. And we have a discussion quite often when we do these farm-to-table events throughout the island. And, quite often people say, well, this organic thing, it's a fad.
Did you hear that gasp?
Exactly. and I'm saying, well, actually, the type of farming that you know now really started to take place after World War II. So which is the fad? Because that's been around since probably 45, and by 2000s we started to talk again about reconnecting small plots, backyard farming, backyard gardening, getting things done with limited resources. Certainly in Cayman, that's the case. And then at the same time, we've seen a transition, and there are some young people coming through in Cayman.
Yes, indeed.
Some very bright ones, and very committed people, very passionate people, because really and truly it takes passion.
Yeah.
If I had to exist on, what would happen. It's a subsidized hobby.
Yes.
But it's something that I enjoy, and also I like to eat what I grow as well. Yeah.
But there's something you used, the kitchen garden. For us, it was the ground.
It's the ground, yeah.
A
piece of land.
Yeah, a piece of land, right? And I think there was this perception that, and sadly, I think I had it to some extent. You needed this large piece of land. You needed to prepare it a certain way. And then my brother Dwight, my father, Dave, like you, Joel, you know what? You got one little piece in the corner somewhere. Instead of having an ornamental, put in something that is useful. And so they'll grow it. And you don't need this big, elaborate, expensive sort of investment. You just need to be able to have passion, put some time into it, and whether it's a tomato or otherwise.
Yeah. And I love that. And more importantly, I think it's those things that drive innovation and creativity. Because when you are faced with a smaller plot of land, or you have land that you may not have a water source, or it's hard or whatever, that's when we come up with creative ways to develop the land. You see people now in big cities, how they're doing those vertical gardens. And there is no end. You see hydroponics. Aquaponics and all different kinds of things. You have so many different innovations because people understood the necessity of growing their own food, but also when faced with the challenge of, okay, well, how do I do this within this environment? Then they came up with some very, very creative solutions. And Cayman farmers are just like that, very creative with what they're able to accomplish we don't have, like you said, 50-acre plus farms. And even speaking to a lot of the farmers, they say to me, I can't get a tractor with a plow behind it because the land doesn't allow for that.
It's a man machine.
And the thing about it, as quite a few of the guys that work with me, in particular, one has been there for a little while, and Wayne. And Wayne, he always commented and said, boss, he said, the thing about Cayman soils, if you can get some, it can go anything, and the quality is
That is true.
It's so
It's
great.
so amazing, yeah.
And he often compares what we do at our place in South Cayman Palms with what they do in St. Elizabeth. We use a lot of organic material. We cover the soils to keep the weeds down, to add organic matter, to reduce the alkalinity, to keep water in the soils, etc. Which is like St. Elizabeth temperature. The climatic conditions in St. Elizabeth are very dry, like it is in Cayman most of the year.
Yeah.
Of course, this week would fool anybody if you go outside. But I mean, so and again, so quite often if people say, well, how do you do it?
Yes.
As you said, innovation, thoughtfulness. How do you overcome this challenge? And in that lies the passion.
So is that going back then, the passion with what Lydia, you were talking about, that knowledge, that keen, that may have been passed on over time. You know, some say it may just be your grandparents, but then they've acquired that knowledge from their grandparents. Even though it's an aging sort of population relative to the farmer, the gardener, but at age, there's wisdom, there's knowledge. How then do we get the younger folks like Joel, like us? Thank you. Because for some of us, we don't understand, and this is unfortunate, we don't know the source of our food. We believe it's in the freezer section at the supermarket. We believe that they take it from there and we put it in the microwave of all. I hate that device.
There's so many ways though, and we've started to do some of them, but we can step it up a bit. First of all, we recognize that things have changed, so we're bringing technology into farming. In some parts of the world, you'll see people utilizing drones and other technological features with their farming. We started here in terms of a number of the primary schools certainly have gardens. And so they get the kindergarten and up to get their hands in the dirt and get it, get used to that. It's about taking tours. A lot of the farmers here and the farms are accessible. They are very happy to take people around and to do tours and to talk to the tours. I know Joel at Plantation Organics, they do a fantastic tour of what he calls a small garden. But I don't know, Joel, the only thing Joel not growing in there is unicorns.
Actually, that's around rainbows. The back. That's on the back on Wednesdays.
I have to tell this story because 2 weeks ago I went to the market and what did I see there? Something called egg fruit. I had never seen egg fruit before. And I was most surprised when I walked in and I saw egg fruit there and I had the chance to, something that's traditionally grown in Mexico.
Yeah, it's a part of the Sapote family. So it's the same family as these Mama Sapote, Mama Apple, white Sapote, black Sapote, yellow. So it's actually yellow Sapote.
Yeah,
but
interesting.
Basically what it is it's just a yellow, it's the same, it's like a sister to Neeseberry. So it's a yellow Neeseberry, if you want to put it in that context, yes.
Yes. So I had the opportunity to...
I was asking, did you taste it?
Of course. What
did you think about it?
It was such an interesting texture. And of course, you know that because it was like a custard. It was like a custard, a creamy custard. It wasn't quite the texture of Neeseberry, which I think is gritty on the tongue.
But it depends which one you get. Wow. The best one is very smooth.
Sorry, I heard you.
So this one had a beautiful yellow color, almost the color of brightly colored scrambled eggs.
Yeah.
And it had a very nice custard flavor to it. And it just fired off because we were talking about connections with the chefs and so on. So I do treats, gourmet treats. So my mind was just like, okay, we can do this a pie. Can we do an egg fruit pie? Can we do egg fruit ice cream? Can we do breads with it?
Bread also makes a fantastic smoothie.
Yes, yes.
You can even add some other stuff in it as well if you want to spice it up a bit. I can't say it on the
air. Very pleased with But what do you think about the taste of it? The reason why I'm getting on, So,
you want the description of the taste?
Yes. How would you just...
There was a hint of sweetness, and I get what you're saying with the Sapote family, where you could pick up that the taste of the sapote, because sapote is very, very sweet.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, it had a slightly watery taste. It would go well. I think it would pair well with like a vanilla flavor or a little bit of spice with it, like your nutmegs and your cinnamons.
Yeah.
I actually even think I was going to say that, or like a rose flavor.
Okay.
Yeah.
You could do that. Yeah. I didn't think that.
But you have to be careful because it's such a delicate flavor.
So would you say eggnog if you were...
Yeah, maybe.
Color certainly.
Yeah.
And of course, an eggnog has stuff in it too. So keep back to that. I mean, the thing about egg food is that, my first interaction with egg food, my Aunt Vida Rankin had a tree in her backyard.
Okay.
And she also had an ackee tree, so she had a grapevine. She also had a mealy apple, which they call Jamaica OTT apple.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And because, so from a very young age, these were fruits that were not common in Caymanburg. But because she had a sister living in Kingston, and a husband who was a captain on one of the Kirk Line ships, he would bring home these seeds. So my first interaction, and I mean, as a child, egg fruit was probably the last fruit we would eat.
Yep.
In Sport Bay, but it was much in Sport Bay. If you were a vegetarian, you had to get
necessity.
Necessity was a mother of all invention, right? Yeah. So yes, it. Now, what I want to say to you about it, and we started talking amongst ourselves here, but is that there is a very close sister to it. It's also a egg fruit. But it's, and if I can use the word, improved variety of egg fruit called the Ross sapote, which is because it's also called canistel, by the way, which is a nicer name than egg fruit, right? So if you want to say canistel, it sounds better, right?
Okay.
So, but there is one that is an improved variety of the egg fruit that we know that has a much nicer flavor and a much nicer texture, and is a much larger fruit as well.
The one so you get more, was slim, was long, and elongated.
And that's the one that's been around here in Cayman from time I could remember, yes.
Yeah. And thanks for that. And the reason why I really appreciate, in a time, either in person or even vicariously through others, benefiting from Joel's, not just his expertise, but the experience, the hands-on stuff. And in the Cayman context, I don't believe that we appreciate how much can be grown, how much is attempted to be grown, and how much of it has been sort of introduced to us but by the ship captains, right, who come back in a time where some
they traveled a lot.
Right? And we're growing stuff that we didn't realize. Even maybe we talk about the mustards at some point down the road, some of the varieties, whether they're spicy or otherwise.
Yeah.
But the challenge then is how some of the things have changed. I talked about the Denise bear for argument's sake. If we look at the Denise bear that I knew as a child, smaller, the skin was thinner and you could eat it, other than the seed. The ones that we may get now larger, the skin is a little bit rougher, the texture is a little bit gritty, and yet we're seeing the changes. My concern though is that we're going to lose one without embracing both.
Okay.
We're replacing without ensuring that we're sharing. Just a concern.
No, I mean it's a point, and I think that some of the things that some of the varieties of those, like I said, the traditional egg fruit. You might say, okay, well, why not go with the Ross sapote? Because it's a better, newer, improved variety, but it's also good to keep the traditional one, which would have come from overseas anyway.
Exactly.
I mean, for example, in my front yard, I have what we call Jew plum. In Barbados, I think they call it
golden apple.
No,
not the Jew plum. Which one?
Jujube.
The jujube. Okay.
So Indian jujube, which is Josephus Mauritania. So we know it as Jew plum. In Jamaica, they call it coulis plum because and you call it.
Is that what dunks?
Dunks, yeah, dunks, downs, dumps, whatever. It's so many different words, but it's funny enough. Funny enough, the proper name is Indian jujube. The rounded one.
Right.
The Chinese jujube is the elongated one. There's only two in that genus, right? So, because I suspect that somebody who was traveling around the world found this somewhere, and I know it as Jew plum, not June plum.
Which is different.
Jew.
J-U.
J-U, okay.
And it was until I learned the real name of it later on in life, I realized it had to come from jujube. Jujube. So somewhere along the line, somebody who was traveling would have got it from somebody, probably from the Indian subcontinent. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And they told him it was a jujube. By the time it got to Cayman, it was Jew plum. And of course, if you say Jew plum in the market, right away they do what you just did. It's golden apple, or pomme satay, as they call it in Trinidad, right? So, which is, the right name is actually the Great Hog Plum of Kidong. Okay?
You see why he has him here, yes.
Yeah.
He fills in so many spaces, yes.
So that in particular, I go the traditional small one next to one that I call, it's the size of a Garnet Smith apple. It's the same jujube, and you've seen it. But the difference is huge. But because of the poor soils, the years of toughing it in Cayman, that big fruit, which was once big, I suspect when our forefathers brought it here, became very small. Like the bitter melon ended up becoming Surasee.
Fascinating.
Struggling.
But
what I'm saying, it's a good point. We need to encourage, the farmers and the gardeners to, as they add the new varieties. For example, we have about 15 to 20 different types of Neesberry. Why? Because it covers all months except for 2. Because it's an extended
longer season.
You see? But I also have the original Neesberry that Daddy bought and planted in the land 1987 from Grandpa and their land in Sport Bay. So I try my best to keep those traditionals alongside, actually quite a distance from the newer ones.
I want to ask maybe after the break then, the notion of, I use the word cross-pollination, and you tell me, make sure I don't, because I've seen a couple of times where one plant and another plant, mangoes, Neesberries, and all of a sudden another plant springs up, and you go, and there's one now that maybe he'll pop in and tell us about it. Wait a minute, what's this thing happening? And it's mangoes, right? Without a deliberate attempt at grafting, we're seeing this thing in nature. And then the risk of, to me, is an Neesberry, the best tree of all, right? The best fruit of all, losing it. But then we get back into the conversation about how we can celebrate farming, the boundary of what we have here, and the fact that you don't have the 50-acre plot, but you may have a quarter-acre piece of land, or it may only be 20 by 10 little space. You can get so much from it. And then talk about perhaps our perception that we don't have any arable land at all. And maybe what we do have, we're putting up, 50-story buildings or whatever the case is. Not a political discussion, but a very socially engaged one. All right, I'm going to pause and take a break. When we come back, more talk today.
Digital is not a buzzword. It is a culture. At Digicel, we've made it our mission to enrich your digital lives. That's why we're bringing together more of all the experiences you love. The latest shows, the best of local and international music and radio, live sports, cloud storage, breaking news, HD video chats, and more. Welcome to Digital at Digicel, the Caribbean's fastest mobile network. Digicel, better together.
Your Radio Cayman 7 a.m. news, brought to you by Cayman National, proudly serving the Cayman Islands since 1974. Visit www.caymannational.com for up-to-date information for all your financial needs, and follow us on social media.
The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. We're here for you. Are you currently a member and interested in management of your pension plan? If so, consider volunteering to be elected as a trustee at our upcoming extraordinary general meeting to be held on the 4th of November. Please visit our website, chamberpension.ky, or email pensions@chamberpension.ky for further details. The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. We're here for you.
The Honeymoon Over, a CNCF production, heard on Radio Cayman Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. and repeated on Saturdays at 6:45 p.m. is proudly sponsored by Radio Cayman, Ministry of Culture, CUC, Grape Tree Cafe, Cayman Medical Supplies, and Puritan Cleaners. Make sure and tune in. You hear?
You are listening to Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks so much. And honestly, I enjoy the opportunity to be here, to facilitate, to laugh, to live, to love, but to learn as we welcome Ms. Lydia Jackman and Mr. Joel Walton to our studio. There is this notion, I think, if you live on an island that for some reason you can't be self-sufficient, you have to always be dependent on the elements. You have to be, and we put all of these other sort of qualifiers in place. But then if we think back to our forefathers, we saw people with great resolve and resilience, dogged determination, but a sense of respect for what they have, where they were, and the importance of unity and cooperation. And in the Cayman context, to see the massive strides by the farming community, from the person who goes out 2 steps in the backyard and brings in some of the best herbs, not just the ones that anyway, all the good herbs. It's all good, the sage, the thyme, Miss Lydia, what are you telling me?
It is. And like I said, when we did a survey of how many backyard farmers we have here, we have over 300 backyard farmers. And I would like to encourage anyone that's listening to this conversation, visit the farmers market. The farmers market, you will see Joel's stall is there. He has some very, very good staff there as well. And a number of other farmers, Solomon's Farm, etc. And you can go and you can just take your time, browse, and they love to talk with you. They love to tell you. Mr. Panton, Patrick Panton, he's there as well. You have Lochloy Farms, Spider's there. He's there. Mr. Hamlin,
and Jasmine from Mr. Willis.
Mr. Willis Farm. Oh yes. And they're fascinating because not only do a number of them do produce, fruits and vegetables, but a number of them will have chicken. A few of them have chickens where you can get your eggs or you can get freshly cut chicken. Some people I know Patrick is telling me about turkeys and goats and some other things there. I know there's the goat farm now in Cayman Brac.
And Zippis does
smoothies and juices
and honey and
stuff.
Yes. Honey, there's also
Smoothie World is down there as well.
Copper, and there's Trudy up in the corner.
In the corner, yes.
So it's quite and it's coconut oil as well. It's quite a diverse. It's quite a diverse offering. The thing about it, as Lydia's, it's a good window because when you see the window, then you start to talk to the farm. You realize there's a lot more behind it. There's a lot of other things you can get locally. I mean, there's Lydia does fantastic gourmet treats, for example.
Thank you.
You also got the lady in Northside, Miss Laurel, and on and on. There's so many people involved behind the scenes. And producing materials and products and
as you showcase and highlight this, and as we get a chance to talk about what's coming up, because I think every occasion gives us a chance to celebrate. But in that conversation, maybe we can draw reference to the fact that for many of us, we see farming that thing we do as a hobby. We see that thing we do when we retire, and unfortunately, it is probably an expensive, as you say, subsidized hobby for many of us. But how do we transition from the individual who likes the ornamentals, the orchids and the like, and saying, well, while you're enjoying that, maybe grow some tomato varieties, grow some, avocados, do some things that are more useful. Sorry.
Well, you see, okay, if Mr. Cook had been here today,
my sister listening, I could be in trouble.
Mr. Nixon was a classic example of that. On the right hand side of his yard, he had the fish, and he had hundreds, thousands of orchids as well.
Right.
Unfortunately, he's passed on. And on the left hand side was his vegetable side. So he actually was a classic case of an individual who did both ornamentals and food at the same time. Unfortunately, I tend to be only one type. I'm not as diverse as he is. But I think that there's people who do that. Not many. I mean, I think that probably Mr. Nixon was probably the most diverse, I think, of all of the traditional farmers, certainly. And even take Patrick. I mean, Patrick was originally a horticulturalist. He had a nursery.
Yeah.
And then over time, he phased that out and went into food production. So, and he's been in it now for 20 years, almost 15 years. So I think you see cases of that. I think that, and I hate to use crisis situations, but I think the recent pandemic, I think, taught a lot of lessons.
Hard ones.
Hard lessons in respect of the availability of certain foods. I mean, eggs, for example, was a challenge.
Was a challenge, yes.
Chicken was a challenge.
We ran out of grains like flour and all that stuff.
All was gone.
Yeah.
We have situations, even to this day, we're still struggling getting seeds. If it had not been with the assistance of the agricultural department, a lot of seeds, we would have no seeds for this season, So I think that to expect that we'd be fully, significantly self-sufficient, it's a far stretch. I think that, I probably sound old now, but softly as it goes, step by step, you build on prior generations.
Yes.
If you take my father's generation and the like of the Premier's father generation, they were traditional farmers. They grew one crop and they reaped it once a year, and they started again once they sold that yam, cassava, or whatever. They were not like what we are now when we are multi-cropping. So, most of us have a nursery that has 4 weeks supply of grains stacked in it. So basically, instead of going 8 weeks in the ground, you're going 4 weeks in trays and flats, and we're going 4 weeks in the ground. So it has progressed significantly and quite rapidly since my father's generation. I mean, that's what influenced me. My father was a subsistence farmer and a seafarer as well, and a carpenter, and so on, as most of the men of his generation were. But his father was also a farmer, and so on. So it's sort of passed down through me, and because I didn't like to eat meats, it wasn't that I had a philosophical problem with it at the time. I was too young to understand it. I just didn't like that. Then naturally I got drawn towards it. So I think it will happen. I think that more and more farmers as well are understanding the importance of not dumping too much chemicals into their lands. A lot of people are talking about permaculture and regenerative farming, where you actually, you try to work with the soil as the foundation of all things, as opposed to working the other way. Don't treat the plant, don't treat the symptom, treat the cause, the whole thing as in human health. I often tell people, I said, a plant is just like a human being. It has the same needs. It has a foundation, and the foundation is the soil, the oxygen from the air and the water. And I think a lot of us are starting to look at that, as opposed to saying we can fix it with a chemical.
Quick fix too.
We can fix it with a fertilizer, but we destroy the soil structure. And of course, we destroy our customers. So I've seen a lot of farmers are making that transition and looking much more closely at what they're doing and what they're going, which is a fantastic thing, I think.
Yeah, I think too, having a chance to talk about, just that traditional time of year, in some cultures, Thanksgiving, even in the Cayman context, we not only because we've embraced it through travel, through our own sort of life experiences of living other places and intermarrying and like, but through just what I believe is the traditional cultural ethos of being thankful. But as we get into that, are we at risk of, one, the reliance on getting seeds and the like from elsewhere, and two, when we do get these things, that they have been, I use the word or the phrase, and I know it'll inflame some people, but they've already been engineered and modified, that they may have changed, so that thing that we had when we were young, the Cayman Callaloo, for instance, the small sweet stalk as opposed to the big red stalk, we're losing out on a lot of it.
Yes. I don't expect that Cayman the Cayman Islands as a small territory will be in a position to generate the seeds it needs. So we're going to always be subject to that. We get some seeds through the Cardi arrangement, particularly on the pepper side and on the tomato side. Some lettuce comes out of Trinidad. Trini Star, for example, which does well in our climatic conditions, comes out of Trinidad. But in terms of the broader section of what the customers
Yeah.
in Cayman wants, we are pretty much held to the U.S. Okay. Unfortunately, we know what has happened in U.S. agriculture. It would have been much nicer, I thought, if you could get seeds from a much more diverse locations.
Yeah.
But because of the restrictions, we sort of stuck with USDA type stuff. So yes, we are at risk. GMO seeds are here already, my friend.
Yes.
They're already
I don't think you can avoid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the history behind corn, for example,
Mhm.
always tell the story about corn. It's hard to find a non-GMO modified corn seed unless you buy it from some place like Baker Heirloom or some place like that, which focus on the traditional corns that we used to have here. They could stand up and survive. They were hard.
But that's the other thing too. We our tastes and our expectations have changed. That we don't know that this was what say our parents had, and because we're so spoiled and conditioned to this thing now.
I don't know if I would call it spoiled though.
I don't know. Boy.
You know,
I don't mean spoiled as being pampered. I mean spoiled as in being rotten.
Okay, let us be a bit kind and say something.
Yes.
It's more a learned response.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
The intellect of the diplomat.
Indeed.
Yeah.
I think every generation we learn.
Yes.
Okay, and we know that things will change. And we, as the world population increases, and even as we here in Cayman start to look at a population increase, we have to figure out how to feed those populations, those growing populations, and how to grow them quickly.
See, this discussion is going to, be one that has to be a part 15. But
yeah.
before we jump right into what I think is the vegetable of the matter. Let's pick up one call. I think Miss Susan says we have a call online.
Okay.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you so much for sharing. Welcome.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
How are you today, Mom?
I am balancing,
There you go.
Is that Mr. Joel Walton in the studio?
Yeah, I know you thought he was my twin, but he's like the less handsome one.
Yeah, you're right about that. Yes, Mom. That's me here.
Good afternoon, Mr. Joel. How are you?
Fine. How you doing, my dear?
I am well. Thanks to the panel. I heard a word that a phrase that I'm very concerned about: genetic modification. All I'm saying is I warm a little minty. The tree trunk don't need to be the size of a small birch tree. I warm a little fever grass, good for everything, including COVID. But it don't need to look like a drunk man that stopped on the side of the road to urinate. It's light green color. You know what I'm saying? I don't know where we can get things that not genetically modified, but we can get them if we look hard enough. We can get them. And Mr. Joel, you know what happened to the little mutton peppers? Where they gone?
You know something? If you check with Dr. Jackman, he might be able, and also Miss Berna Murphy, by the way, as well. Miss Berna has some mutton peppers because I see them going in England now as well. Winston McMahon has been going them in.
Looking at what it tastes like, Mr. Joel.
Apparently they're quite.
You're not old enough to remember all that, but.
Yeah, me and you grew up on Smithfield together,
Yeah, I know that.
I think we might not even have went to primary school too.
No, went that way. As poor as I am, I wouldn't have come do that to me.
Okay, so no, from what I understand from Dr. Jackman, Miss Berner, and others, the flavor is quite good actually. But this yeah. So I would check.
They made for turtle meat, that turtle meat food there, and little barra.
Yeah. I need the barra, but yeah, and I eat the turtle meat either, but yeah, I understand it's good.
So, Mr. Joel, now, so as a policy, what is my country going to be doing about this genetic modification? I hear them trying to whisper that none can do, but that because as usual we starting too late.
I think what we were trying to do here is not to talk too much about that side of things today. But yeah, I mean, you make an excellent point, and it's something that I think as a territory we would need to focus on sooner rather than later. In terms of where our seeds come from, is extremely critical for us to look serious like that. There are non-GMO modified seeds out there.
But to find them?
Well, there's companies in the places like India where you can get, traditional seeds. There's even seeds coming out of the U.S. that are heirlooms as well. It's a matter of, as you say, looking at it at the national level. But we didn't want to talk too much about that side today.
Oh, so sorry.
No, that's fine. I mean,
I'm always a spoiled sport. That's why my friends don't carry me out.
No, it's an excellent observation you made.
But so what you say, Dr. Jackman or Miss Berner?
Yeah, but give him a call. Yes.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, ma'am.
All right. Thank you very much. And Ms. Lydia, certainly, publicly want to extend an invitation, as we talked privately. The idea of food and food security, the idea of encouraging farmers, and Joel, with all sincerity, man, I'm glad that you allowed me to reference you from time to time. People who know you would see immediately why we do that. Your day job, so to speak, which is probably 24/7 and 365.
All the time.
Yeah, right. But the passion that you have, but also the interest in the science and the ability to encourage people and to inspire them through what you do, that it can be done. It doesn't require anything other than honing the passion. Now, Ms. Lydia, we have a holiday coming up that is a very, very, very significant holiday on our calendar.
Yes, it is.
But I think that as we get into Christmas, as we look at what's transpiring globally, the importance of giving thanks, of recognizing what's to hand, and to harnessing and harvesting,
what we have here.
Yeah.
And we want to invite the public to join us on November 9th. That's Monday, the November 9th. That is a public holiday. That is the Remembrance Day from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Farmers Market. We're going to do something a little bit different. We're calling it Pumpkin Paradise, an exploration of fall flavors in Cayman. Normally, we don't think of fall flavors here. We tend to think more of like your coconut and mangoes, etc. But we decided we were going to focus on the pumpkin. I was speaking to Jonathan from Tom Foodery. Again, that's the chef connection. And he was like, yes, he was very much like, let's talk about fall flavors here. And I know that they'll have, and Joelle can correct me, I know they'll probably have some seasoning peppers and some different things. But I want to invite the general public to come out to that, because that is, we are going to have not just farmers, but we're going to have artisans there as well, artists there as well, so that we can see the connection. I call it the skin to seed. I love to say that, skin to seed connection, where you can see every part of the product being used. And every part of the product being used and showcased in all these different ways. I think we're going to have about 30 different vendors there, farmers, artisans, and artists. And we wanted to do it too because during this time, like you said, it's a time of Thanksgiving. And we know that this is a year, even with all of its challenges, we have a lot to be thankful for.
Certainly.
And I know people are doing some amazing, amazing things. We are going to have Organica Cayman with their fresh juices. Young people that came, they needed to do stuff with their school fees, and they created this company, and they make the most amazing juices. You can come out and see that. We have Cayman Scents. Of course, she does things with powders, soaps, etc. We have Tea Time in Cayman. They have tea there. Tom Foodery is going to be doing pumpkin pies and Pop-Tarts, with the proceeds going to the Breast Cancer Society, because October is Breast Cancer Month. We have Miss Jeanette with Cayman Ice Creams. Her ice cream, absolutely delicious. Sweet Hillary's, Cayman Handmade Collective. And that is all the artwork, artisans, Michelle Illustrations, Jazzy Cakes, myself, Powder Monkey Gourmet Treats. And then, of course, we are going to have your Plantation Organics. So we're going to have Solomon's Farm. We're going to have Zippy, Smoothie World, Lookaloy Farms, Dell Farms, Garnet Farms. Mr. Patrick Panton, I think his is Island. I can't remember the name of his farm right now, but everybody knows him from seeing him around. I'm sure.
East End Garden Gifts.
East End Gardens and Gifts, yes. But I think the name name has changed.
Yeah.
And we're even trying to get a food truck there, Island Bites, so that you can also get some delicious bites there. So much more.
Yeah. And of course, you know, the pumpkin harvest this year has been tremendous.
Yes.
We've had pumpkins over pumpkins. Unfortunately, of course, because of the rains, we have lost some.
Yeah.
But there's tons of good pumpkin out there this year.
And if you haven't tried local pumpkin, you need to try it. There's nothing like that flavor.
I don't know. I mean, it's not just my strong sense of national love and so on, but the pumpkin, the cantaloupe, the avocado, or any of the pears.
Yes.
Having it here, I don't know if it's just me, but I believe everybody appreciates the cantaloupe. You can eat the skin and all. You know, it's straight down to just a little bit that isn't used.
Yeah.
So we can grow stuff. What we grow is exceptional, but we're not perhaps appreciating what is available.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. You want
Yeah, it's just one thing, and I want to pick up on an earlier part of your conversation. One of the things that we don't quickly pick up on, the Cayman Islands are between 19 and 20 degrees north. So what that immediately does, it opens up a wide palette of not just tropical,
Yes.
but also sub and semi-tropical food.
Yes, yes.
So you can do well with everything from peaches and strawberries all the way down to the cacao, which is chocolate.
Yeah.
Yes, with some of those, you got to work a bit harder with cacao because there are climatic fluctuations in Cayman. And cacao doesn't like it. Coffee doesn't like that either. Vanilla doesn't like that either. But you can grow those here quite well. You just got to do some protection. Perhaps use a black screen.
Yeah.
Whereas with lettuce, you would use a silver screen because you don't want the heat. You want to cool, to keep it cooler. So because of where we are, yes, we're an island, so we have the impact of the salts, etc. And the soils are particularly bad. But because of the way we are located, the palette of possibilities is so wide.
Indeed.
You see? And I think at times we don't think about that. We think of just one way, but there's a lot of possibilities.
But I think that's where, like, even to the caller's point, to the extent that we don't have, as a country, sufficient knowledge of what was grown in the past. I think of strawberries, even the strawberry plant, the small ones, or even the attempts at pineapple. But I don't think we also have the respect for what is possible. If for some reason I'm mindful because I don't want to be disparaging or disrespectful, but we confuse luxury with the imported as opposed to the freshly planted.
Well, I would say that's changing. I think that is changing. I think we have a number of cultures here too who understand a lot with markets and farming and things like that, and who love to go to farmers markets. But that's why we have events like this, because we want to invite the general public to come out and see and talk to the people who grow. That's the closest you're going to get to your food, to be honest. And like I said, these farmers are open. A lot of them will invite you to come and visit their farms and see what they're growing there. So November 9th is an opportunity for you to come out and get some of the best fresh fruits, vegetables that you will ever taste, and also know that that there are other artisans there, that you can see what other people are doing with the fresh fruits and produce that they get on the islands. I mean, have you had pumpkin juice? Listeners, have you had pumpkin juice before? I mean, we have people who are going to be doing pumpkin juice and pumpkin ice cream and all of these things. And a birdie is whispering we're trying to get Mr. Mighty to come and even do some pumpkin carvings. So, come out and see, come out and support, come out and talk. And of course, the farmers market is open 6 days a week, from about 9 in the morning until usually about 4 or 5 in the afternoon. So you can come by. Saturday is traditionally the busiest day at the market, but come out on Monday and see and support what our farmers and local artisans are doing.
And if I could just add, what's nice about this event is that the number of vendors that will be there will be much greater than normal.
Yes.
So even if you don't want to buy anything, just come, because it's a window to what's available. You can then decide later on if you want to contact Powder Monkey, you want to contact Willie's Farms or whatever. Don't feel you have to come, but you should buy if you come. Just come and talk, listen, and get to understand. Look at the shop window and see what's available.
It's kind of like, like you said, you're shopping for Christmas in a sense. You're going to see what is in the stores. And I think for too many of us, we either don't know or have forgotten what was available, what is possible. You talked about being able to grow chocolate with the cacao, even the coffee. It takes a bit of work, but it's not impossible. The strawberry, not just the small one that we used to see growing wild, but now the traditional one that we may have buy just takes a little bit of work. If we don't avail ourselves of these opportunities, we're missing so much, and it's healthier.
Indeed.
It's economically, better.
And I think small quantities are fine. I think you love it more when you know I have to get it during this window. You
Good
appreciate
things come in
it
small
more.
quantities, see? Mr. Walton, thank you for...
And thank you too, sir.
Much appreciate it.
Nice.
And to Ms. Lydia for bringing us together and having this conversation.
I love it.
This is going to
I
be...
want to thank her too as well.
It's a great resource, I think. And we're going to leverage it as much as possible so that more people start to appreciate how important it is. So, final invitation for Holiday Monday the 9th, Remembrance Day. Remember who we are, where we are, and why we are.
Exactly. And come in and support your farmers. They work very, very hard. They're very knowledgeable. They're very open and friendly. Support your artisans as well, your artisans, other small businesses and local businesses here. They need our support and they appreciate it. Come in and taste something that you've never tasted before. Come and get your mind open and your taste buds come alive.
So tantalizing taste buds.
I know.
Minds have been mined. Hey, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
We're going to pause and take a break. When we come back, we want you to be a part of our continuing discussion as we welcome our friends from the Lions Club of Tropical Gardens. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Fidelity Bank would like to thank all essential workers. We salute your efforts and thank you for the sacrifices you've made to keep us all safe. During these challenging times we're facing, our top priority is the health and safety of the communities we serve. And while it's true that things are changing rapidly every day, one thing that will never change is our commitment to giving you the best and sound financial solutions to help you during and after the coronavirus pandemic. At Fidelity Bank, our focus will always be you. Fidelity, we're good for you.
What a great spot for lunch. I haven't been here in ages.
I saw it on Experience Cayman.
What's that?
It's a free online festival showcasing all the great things to do in Cayman.
Oh, that's so cool. I'll check it out for sure. Now, what are we having for lunch?
Experience Cayman is a celebration of everything local to rediscover all the best things to see and do in the Cayman Islands. Visit gov.ky/Experience Cayman and follow Experience Cayman on Facebook and Instagram. Brought to you by the Ministry of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
On a daily basis, making it easy to connect with you, our listeners. Add us to WhatsApp today, 925-3261. That's 925-3261.
Radio Cayman.
Send a text or voice note.
Can I send a request, please?
You don't really have to ask us. Just send a request.
This is a shout out to my ex.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
Satisfaction is guaranteed 24 hours a day, whether it's music or information.
From Grand Cayman to Cayman Brac to Little Cayman, we've got you covered.
You ever hear a thing like that?
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only two species that we have here on North Island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice.
It is in the best interest of the people of these islands.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
Government plans to spend $9 million on the tourism stipend program through the end of this year. Deputy Premier and Tourism Minister, the Honorable Moses Kirkconnell, tells fellow lawmakers the funds are only one aspect of efforts to help the tourism stakeholders hard hit by the closure of the borders, citing efforts to provide training and education opportunities for when the borders reopen. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. Pakistan's first metro line has begun commercial operations in the eastern city of Lahore. The 17-mile Orange Line, with more than 24 stations, will drastically cut travel time across the notoriously congested city, reducing a 2.5-hour bus journey to 45 minutes by metro. And Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has called on Turks to boycott French goods amid a row over France's tougher stance on radical Islam. In a televised speech, he urged world leaders to protect Muslims if there is oppression against Muslims in France. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
your voice, your choice, your radio.
89.9 Radio Cayman helps you to weather the storm during this hurricane season.
One of the most crucial elements of hurricane preparedness is storm awareness. During the season, it is of utmost importance to pay attention to the latest local weather forecast, as hurricanes do not suddenly form or strike. There are various methods of advanced notification. Utilizing such may be the difference between a favorable outcome and disaster. Both television and radio serve as excellent mediums with up-to-the-minute storm path information in the wake of a hurricane. Another method of tracking a hurricane may be only arm's length away. Your smartphone or tablet can be your most valuable tool before, during, and after a storm, providing countless numbers of apps with crucial hurricane information. Many apps allow you to track storms with moving radar and satellite imagery, plus offer alerts, current conditions, forecasts, advisories, and even video.
This hurricane preparedness tip was brought to you by your community radio station, Radio Cayman 89.9 FM.
Are you constantly cleaning your home or office
and spending less time on business or with family?
H&A Janitorial Services is offering residential and commercial cleaning starting at just $11 per hour per cleaner for a limited time only. Buy 2 cleaning, get the third free. That's buy 2 cleanings and get the third free. From deep cleaning services to upholstery, carpets, windows, tiles, and grout, H&A uses antibacterial cleaning products to ensure a spotless, sanitized environment. Call H&A Janitorial 743-2875 or 324-0879 and ask how you can get your third cleaning absolutely free. Terms and conditions apply.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back and thanks so much. And it's only Monday. Look at all the ground we've covered already. Wow. Well, I'm honored to be able to get the next 10 minutes or so with the excellent company of Miss Maxine Bravo as we talk about what I believe is always a stellar work at the Lions Club. And as we look at Lions and Lions International, we look at the opportunities that exist here within our community. Miss Maxine, you guys, all your, can I say sister clubs, brother clubs?
Yes.
Whether on Grand Cayman or on the BRAC, you lead by example and you engage and involve the community. And whether it's October or whether it's any other day in any other month of the year, you always have something positive and very, very encouraging going on. So to you and your fellow Lions, thank you very much for the work you do.
Thank you very much, Sterling. We are here to serve.
Hey, so let, the greatest among you will be the first to serve, right?
Yes.
I think by servant leader, that example that we set, I think it's healthy for our society.
Yes.
Well, this month is drawing to a close. It's been an interesting year. I know you've had a couple of things that have went off quite well. You have some other things coming up as the week unfolds and as the month comes to a close. But what has been great so far? What have you shared? I mean, I've been glad to have my get so I use it as a recyclable tool. Perfect, man. So it's all good.
Yes. So we started out the month by launching our breast cancer awareness campaign, and that was in effect a campaign that went online, virtual. It was virtual. Usually our launch is local, but we did it virtual to get other persons within the region and across the world to be a part of what we do. And I must say that we were successful in reaching persons to inform them about what Lions Club of Tropical Gardens does, as well as to share with the community some of the things we do during the month of October. So on the 28th of October of September, when we did the launch, we had it in a different forum where it was more of a concert something giving back to the community, so to speak. And we want to thank those listening audience who participated in that.
I think it was a good way to give back, but also to remind us to whom much is given, much is required.
Yes.
So, that level of participation and any leveraging the technology so that it becomes almost an international platform, as it were. And it shows what we can do if we work hand in hand.
Yes.
And you also had a step challenge recently as well.
Right. So I was about to talk about our step challenge. And this year we did it a little bit different. So we normally have the Brenda Tibbetts Lund Run Walk, and which is sponsored by the Breast Cancer Foundation. But this year we decided, because of the impact of COVID, we wanted to take it down a notch, not to have so many persons out in the public trying to maintain that social distance, practice. And we had 129 steppers who signed up, registered online on Cayman Active. And today I want to say that 2 groups that participated for the entire 23 days, so the launch, it started the 1st of October, ended on the 24th, are UCCI's Steppers and RC Fusion. And I see Sterling smiling like crazy, right? Because he's a part of that team. I'm wondering if Sterling even logged any
he didn't log any steps at all. I want to laugh because I'm so glad that we have a wonderful community spirit within the Radio Cayman, right?
Yes.
And to see Miss Martha in particular and Miss Paulette, doing stuff, I feel bad to know that my participation probably pulled them down, but my gallant cheering was there. I was an avid cheerleader.
Okay, so Sterling stepped with his mouth, right, and not with his feet. But I must say, we had 9 corporate teams, but because we wanted participation from all teams that registered 10 or more, those were the only 2 teams that came up on top. And so we'll use the opportunity on the 29th at our Grand Cayman, the Lions Center of Grand Cayman. We're going to be doing our awareness meeting, and at that session, we'll be distributing our awards. So I'm going to ask those persons, UCCI Steppers, RC Fusion, to come on out. I'll also contact the other persons who participated. Solar Stepper, we had 1 solar lady and a solar man who did over 13,000 average steps for the competition. And they said average, we calculated 23 days, the number of steps. So overall, your average step was 13,000.
Wow.
Well done.
Yeah,
and I'm certain it helps the health as well, wellness, because while you would do a burn walk on one particular day, you did this, you committed to doing this for 23 days. So kudos to those persons who participated.
Yeah, man. It has, I've watched, for me, the last time I did it was somehow forgetting to register and to log it and so on, right? And I didn't feel like giving Martha that much trouble this time, although she's graciously and gladly would have done it.
Right.
But I was trying to figure out how to get it tied to my tongue so that I could measure the steps.
Maybe that's one thing they need to make, right?
Yeah, me and Austin could probably work that out.
That's a good invention.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. But it also, as you shared, it shows how we can participate in the health and how this activity reminds us of how inactive we think we are. And sometimes by doing it, we start to appreciate that, hey, it makes a difference. You feel better, the circulation, the movement, the little bit of energy. I mean, a friend couldn't figure out, why there was this stuff on his skin. I said, that's sweat. He said, what? I've never seen that before. Well, if you don't do anything, you don't.
Yes,
it's good for
you.
you.
If you're in the kitchen or so, your steps counted. You do it. So again, that's a part of wellness, and we've always encouraged persons to ensure that your wellness is up, especially during the month of October. So that is key for us.
Now, with that in mind, you talk about the meeting on Thursday, right? It's at the Lions Center, and that itself is a venue that is truly a community sort of gathering place, whether it's a concert or a wedding, whether we're having, the Miss Cayman or one of the pageants, or whether sometimes it may be something of significant national importance in the merchants or the wider society meeting. But here it is, celebrating our health, reminding us to take ownership, to become involved, to become informed. I think it's helpful.
Yes. And at that meeting, we will have Dr. Robinson from CTMH Hospital, Doctors Hospital, who will be presenting again. Dr. Robinson is very informative when he presents. Persons will get an opportunity to ask as much questions as they choose to, so it won't be a monotonous presentation. Do feel free to interrupt him. At that awareness meeting, however, we are not going to be distributing mammogram vouchers. For the period of the month, 1st of October to the 31st, what we did do differently was to encourage persons to apply for their mammogram vouchers at the Lions Club of Tropical Gardens. We are located at our new home, right across from Napa, which is 522 Shedden Road, right beside Mango Tree. So you can't miss it. We're right at the roundabout. And I think the location was formerly Mike Simmons Plaza. So it's Mike Simmons, then Lions Club of Tropical Gardens.
And again, many of us cross that way for many, many reasons, whether we're getting family and friends who are coming back and have to go through the airport, or whether we enjoy a quick little lunch or a Friday evening socializing. It's right there.
Yes.
And you guys are always there, man.
Yes, you see me, right?
Only when I'm that way.
Yes, we're open from 11 to 2 on Monday to Thursday. We will be closed this Thursday because of the awareness meeting. And then we will reopen at 11 to 3 on Saturday. We're asking women who wants to achieve a voucher to come on out and apply. When we close from 11 to 2, we open again at 4:30. So today, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday will be open from 4:30 again in the afternoon, 4:30 to 6:30. We close and then we open again 11 to 2 and vice versa. Now we'll also have a Georgetown clinic, which is tomorrow. So persons will have the opportunity again to go in, speak with the doctor. Thanks to Nurse Joy, she's really committed. Nurse Joy continues to be a fine supporter of this and to give women the information. We will have 2 of our lions there. We'll collect your application forms, and at that time we will assess and contact you for distribution.
Yeah, I think it's something that you've done over 20 years now. I think,
yes, 23 years.
Yeah, I was just a youngster when it started.
Me too.
You might have been, but it's made a difference in the lives of the community, not just our wives and sisters and mothers and aunts and grandmothers, but the conversation that we have, the information that's been shared, the ease with which now we understand that we can talk about it, the resource that is available, where we go, when we go, why we go. And I think it has been, remarkable to see the uptake. And it just shows consistent effort. So really have to commend you. I think you guys have been the trailblazers. A sterling effort.
Thank you so much, Sterling. I want to also tell the public today that we will not just close the month with just the mammogram vouchers. We have one opportunity where you can lend your support to us. We have a after hours at Rackham's this Friday. So the Dress Down, Dress Pink day is Friday the 30th. So take your photographs, share it with us. We will tag CUC in on it. And every sponsor from a photograph comes towards us. It's $5 per photograph. So just take your photographs and share it with us. We'll share that with CUC. They have a hashtag on our Facebook page. We'll share that with them. And $5, only $5 for a photograph shared, that will come towards the Lions Club of Tropical Gardens. And that money goes towards helping to supply mammogram vouchers, which is given to women for free. And Sterling, between the 1st of October to now, we've distributed 300 vouchers.
Wow. And if anybody was, I won't ask you to do it, but do the math quickly. Just this year alone, they realize how much each voucher worth, times it by 3, times that by 23. You see the amount of money that has been committed. That's just the money.
Yes.
But then the time and then the love of putting it together.
Exactly. And there is not much sponsorship that came in this year. So we are asking the public to come on out at Rackham's. buy your raffle tickets. Treat yourself to a business after-hour drink.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Pink Cadillac. And all monies come towards us from that raffle.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
we have a main prize, a gift certificate from Cayman Airways.
See that? And a photograph with the wonderful Lions Club, members.
Yes,
I mean, that itself is worth 5,000 easily.
Yes.
It's going to be for posterity.
Yes. Our pink shop is still open.
Mm-hmm.
We still have caps. We still have some T-shirts in-house. Come on down. See us. 522 Shedden Road, right beside Mango Tree.
And, of course, this coming Thursday then at the Lions Center.
7 o'clock.
7 p.m.
Yes.
You know what? Don't fight the traffic, If you
don't early.
Just come, stay, socialize, and become informed and realize that, this is something that benefits all of us, male and female as well. We don't see it as this thing just for our mothers and our sisters, and it's for the wider community.
Yes, most definitely.
I know you're going to head back into work, but as you close off your information sharing with us now, what do you want us to look at? Not only in our participation and support for the club and its activities, but in terms of our health and our appreciation.
Right.
What message would you want to leave with us?
I challenged a set of students 2 weeks ago at the Calvary Baptist Academy School, and I challenged them. I said, there is something going on within our community as it relates to the environment, what is causing our women in the Cayman Islands to be affected by breast cancer. How can we detect it early enough or earlier that we can treat it and not have recurrences? And so I'm challenging our community. Let us start thinking outside of the box. How can we do things differently to detect, not to be proactive, or reactive, but to be proactive in finding out what is really causing it. Cayman Islands alone has the leading cause of breast cancer within the region.
Something to consider, something to understand, and we determine that there are many factors, and hopefully the fact that early detection saves lives. That we're very proactive in get into it early and not let it be in this taboo like some other things in some other places, but even here ourselves,
Yes, but Sterling, the last thing I want to say on this topic is that we find that a lot of women try to do a mammogram every year. It's not recommended because you have high radiation. So unless your doctor says, or you're a survivor, and your doctor says, yes, you need it annually, then please, women, buy annually, because there are already the radioactive waves, right? So you want to avoid that as much as possible. So it doesn't make sense to do when you're not really needing to do a screening annually. Don't do it.
Don't avoid getting it, but then don't get it too often either.
Right.
This is when information comes in, and the presentations, on Thursday, for instance, your clinics help to inform people so that they can make, sound decisions.
Yes. Diet and exercise.
That's what I say.
Eat right. And I earlier heard that there is going to be a wellness thing going on the 9th of November. So I'm encouraging the listening public to be a part of that as well. Yeah?
We're at the farmers market, man. Yes. It's some great food. It's not just a revolution. It's a reminder, a rekindling of the interest in our foods, in our lifestyles that we should lead, in the love that we should have for each other as we share and break bread, but also as we fellowship and socialize and enjoy what Cayman is. Everybody else seems to. Maybe it's time that we do as well.
That is true.
Well, I really appreciate you taking some time out of your very, very hectic schedule. And it was the end of the month. It was the first day of the week, so that even makes it even worse. But thanks for coming over, and to you and your entire membership and the wider Lions family. You do so much. So very grateful to the service sector in terms of the community service from all the clubs. So thanks very much.
Right. Thank you so much, Sterling.
It's Maxine Bravo. And Thursday evening, 7 p.m. at the Lions Center. Come out and get excellent information, but also be supportive of all their continuing efforts and initiatives. All right, let's pause. And if I can encourage Miss Susan during the break to warm up those pipes, maybe we can have a song. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Do you remember when 2020 was great?
I don't think it was
2020 vision, not the year.
right.
Make 2020 great again with Optical Outlook, the new West Bay store now open. With their designer frames and sunglasses, eye health has never looked so good. Call 746-2020 and book your eye exam today at Caymanian Village and now at Jake Scott Plaza in West Bay, offering premier eye care in Cayman for over 30 years. Come see the difference with Optical Outlook.
Rotary Central Music Extravaganza tickets are moving like a hold glass of swanky on a hot Cayman Brack day. Get your tickets now from Rotary Central members, Rotary ticket sellers, eventpro.ky, Funky Tanks, A.L. Thompson's Home Depot, Mango Tree Restaurant, Seabird's Bar, Eastern Avenue, Tashara Lewis in Cayman Brack. Get your golden tickets. Get ready to be a winner. Stand your chance to win $40,000. Second prize $4,000. 6 $1,000 prizes and more. The Music Extravaganza 2020. Building bus shelters throughout the Cayman Islands, supporting over 70 Rotary community projects. Rotary Central, not-for-profit number 232. Rotary opens opportunity.
JN Money Card. When my land up a JN, me get the money card with them. Just show them your ID and give them your TRN. Go and use at the ATM or swipe instead then. And when you need more cash, and make your family send it in a flash. From abroad to card, get the JN Money Card. It's safe, convenient, and free. JN Money Card only available and used in Jamaica. Call 345-945-2014 for details.
Nominations for round 12 of the Proud of Them award scheme opened on the 30th day of September and were scheduled to close on October 21st. Today, I am pleased to announce the extension of the nomination period until October 31st. I implore you all to use this excellent opportunity to celebrate the remarkable accomplishments of some of the most extraordinary and talented youth within these Cayman Islands. Complete your nominations online using the new Youth Services Unit website at www.youthservices.ky. That is www.youthservices.ky. If you are not so inclined, then download a nomination form and submit the completed form by email to info.ysu@gov.ky. Help us to recognize excellence among youth in the Cayman Islands. Submit your nominations today. I thank you.
A message from the Honorable Juliana O'Connor Connolly, Minister for Education, Youth, Sports, Agriculture and Lands.
Satisfaction is guaranteed 24 hours a day, whether it's music or information.
From Grand Cayman to Cayman Brack to Little Cayman, we've got you covered.
You ever hear a thing like that?
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. And welcome back to Miss Susan. I mean, she's like right there. Even though she was, doing other things, we missed her, man. And her colleagues ably did the work. It took 3 of them to do the job of one Susan. Just kidding. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. I'm reminded, that if you enjoy what you do it with great passion and enthusiasm, sense of honesty and integrity, then it is that much better. And as I said, I'm thinking of the conversation, with Maxine, but also, with Joel and Lydia earlier. If you're a gardener, a backyard farmer, for instance, or if you're making that your livelihood, like anything, if you put a lot of commitment, effort, and energy into it, if you have the passion and the genuine interest, then even though it may be physically taxing, it may be a significant capital investment, taking a lot of money to get it going, but if you're enjoying it, And if you see that the reward, even though it may not accrue to you, it still is worth the investment of time, of your talent, of your treasure. Well, as we close out today's discussion, we want to perhaps invite a caller or two to share a thought with us. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. While you consider whether you want to share with us, whether you have time, even though you may want to, perhaps look around and see what I believe is a wonderful, beautiful, blessed place in which to live, work, and call home. But are we doing all we can to ensure that the quality of life for ourselves and for each other is as best as it can be? It may seem simple, for some of us it isn't, but how are we disposing of our garbage? Are we reducing how much we send into the landfill? Are we just throwing our cigarette butts and our candy wrapper and our cans and the paper and others just ending everywhere? And other things that mean a lot. Well, let's go to the phones. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for calling.
Hey, Mr. Dwayne.
Hey, good to hear from you, my friend. How are you today?
Yes, sir. Good one.
All right. Well, I must say, man, if you don't mind me, hoping not embarrassing, but those cakes recently, man, they were delicious.
That's right.
They were
That's
enjoyable,
right.
man.
That's right.
So thank you for being in the kitchen.
It's pioneering.
Yep, there you go, man. There you go. All right. So what's going on, man? What else is happening?
Mr. Dwayne, is one thing we got to notice, right? When you say about we doing for the hobby, you know what? You know that we got to do everything all one time. You know that?
Yeah. Sometimes it feels that we never stop doing.
Yeah. It can't be that I got to go swim out today and don't catch nothing. I have to. It can't be that I got to work all week and I don't get nothing. It can't be that I got to work 67, 70, 8 years and don't have nothing. So somebody deliberately tried to do that. Steal it from me, my parents, my children, my grandchildren, and so on. Then something not right. It's either I lacking courage to stand up and say what I'm supposed to say, or somebody got me so constrained that I can't even flap one big toe anyway. I can't do nothing.
Okay.
That not go so. That can't be right if you think we put here on all this darkness, Mr. D, to come here and fight each other on this land, or any land, then something must be wrong. You know what you call that? You call that a zombie.
But as I listen to you, the fact that we're finding, and if we were just to say focus on the Cayman Islands, we're finding that people are more willing and perhaps more inclined and eager to steal, to take from others, to deceive, than say they were last year or last century or what have you. If that is happening, are we able to look to figure out why those sorts of negative things are transpiring in our society, and then how do we address it?
Yeah, because the false sense of reality growing stronger.
Okay. But then
thinking is true is not really true.
Yeah. But then they say that drown a man will grasp at straws. They say equally that necessity is the mother of invention. Are we at a point where there are some people at one extreme that they are so stressed, that their life is so hectic and things are so difficult that they're just trying to survive? Or is it that people have yet to get to a realization where they need to innovate, they need to appreciate that what is before them isn't lasting, sustainable, that whether it's being more conscious about the foods we eat and eating what we grow and grow what we're eating, as well as being more mindful that we need to work hand in hand to ensure that people are brought along, maybe not to the same extent, not at the same pace, but nobody is being left out.
That's correct. No, if it always going to be a middle class and lower class, there always will be war and strife. There always will be somebody ready to steal something. Always.
But and it's not that it's idealistic nor necessarily noble, and I hope it's not naive. But I hear it said, and it's being applied to the Cayman context, that where there's high unemployment, you must expect crime. Where there's poverty, you must expect crime. But then I think back to what I believe was our society not that long ago. People, there wasn't a lot of work, so people left the country, whether the men went to sea or families moved elsewhere, whether to Cuba, whether to the US or other places. And people farmed because, well, they had to if they wanted something to eat, whether it was the farming from the sea or the farming from the backyard and the ground. And there was relatively little or no crime. So if you had that, then when things were really, really physically difficult, the mosquitoes, the less, from the perspective today, availability of technology and opportunities to travel. If life was like that then, a better quality of life when compared to today, why is it now that we're willing to accept that there must be crime with unemployment? There must be crime because of all these other things that supposedly is a measure of progress.
Because somebody got something to gain by keeping you and I thinking that what we have now is not enough. We need more and more and more and more. You understand? So when you keep them doors open to that, you open up where somebody can have a voice on you, where somebody have control on you, and you can almost act. You won't even know that you're doing what they're telling you to do.
Mm-hmm. So how then do we get to that point where we are looking at a society that appreciates what is real and is prepared to do the right thing? What is the lyrics about Marley? None but ourselves can free our minds, right? When are we going to see what is real and what is really important?
You know how that usually happens? When somebody tell you make sure you have on shoes when you step outside. See, when you step on a nail, that's when you go and figure out and find out about reality.
So what was it that our parents and grandparents would say? You can't hear but you can feel.
You got that right. This is what it's all about.
Yeah, man.
You want what you feel, and want to come lick the tears off you when you start crying.
All right. Well, from what you're saying, then it sounds like we don't have the courage and the conviction to stand in the gap and do the right thing. It's kind of, I don't believe I'm talking out of school nor saying anything that isn't already in public domain. But it's like when we listen to the debates on the various things before the Legislative Assembly. Take, for instance, this military that we're forming. Some have questioned, the timing can be afforded at this time. How is it going to be utilized and the impetus for it and the true picture behind it? Not questioning whether it's a great thing for discipline, that it could be very useful in many respects. But how do we get to a point where those conversations are being had in a meaningful, constructive, responsible, respectable manner from all sides, and even those that are undecided? I'm always glad to engage you, and I don't wish to impose Ms. Susan any further because I've gone over there a lot of time. But any sort of closing thoughts you may want to leave with us?
No. When the next time they're in the Legislative Assembly, 35, 50,000 of us have to be there same time. Whether we there, in person or we there in on phone or broadcasted.
Yeah.
With the mouth have to be, they can be both ways, where you listening and you speaking to them.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't want to listen. They listen to the dollars flopping in the air.
Well, the Legislative Assembly is in session. We are seeing that increasingly there are attempts by some of the members to advise and inform and involve and engage their constituents. But as you shared, as a populace, especially as the electorate, who are going to be going to the polls in short order, are we taking time to get informed? Are we reaching out to the politicians through some means to share with them our thoughts on certain things? So I appreciate you telling us, we need to become that much more involved. But thanks very much for your thoughts, man.
Thank you.
All right, have a blessed afternoon, and to each of you. It doesn't mean that you disagree with something that you have to be vitriolic. It doesn't mean that you agree with it then and there, that you are not free to have a dissenting view at another time. I think what it means is that you're able to think independently, be constructive thinkers, and be responsible, respectable, and respectful in all of our endeavors and engagements. And what do they say? Heavy is the head that wears the crown. But oftentimes we fail to appreciate that, as we move forward in our society, we should be mindful that to whom much is given, much is indeed required. Until tomorrow, be blessed.
Shaken yet